Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be reviewing Realm of Nights by Jennifer Ann Davis. Provided a free e-arc of this book by publisher Rain Publishing through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. Realm of Nights is about a character named Reed Ellington, who is the daughter of Duke Ellington, and they live in a kingdom in which women are not allowed to hold land or titles or anything like that. A duke has to have a son in order to deed his land to the son in order to have an heir, but the Duke Ellington only has 5 daughters. Reed is the youngest of those 5 daughters, and her mother died in childbirth. And since the Duke doesn't want to remarry, he raises Reed as a boy so that their family doesn't lose all of their land and titles. So Reed has been living her entire life as a boy, and she's getting kind of to the age where it's starting to become obvious that she's not a boy. And this is when they're visited by 2 of the princes of the kingdoms who really quickly realize that she's a woman. And so she kind of joins them on this quest to save her family because they promise her that they'll be able to pardon her father for lying to them if she serves the kingdom. So there are a lot of interesting twists and turns in this book. I ended up enjoying this book way more than I was expecting to. Like, it's kind of a guilty pleasure read for me. It's definitely YA fantasy. It has a romance in there. It has a lot of the different YA tropes, but I feel like it has a very interesting way of doing it. It was definitely a very fast-paced book. I finished it in one night, and it kept my attention the entire time. It's kind of one of those like guilty pleasure reads for me. In these reviews, I talk about 4 things: characters, plot, world building, and writing style. So first, we're gonna get to the characters. So we have Reed, who is such a fantastic character. I absolutely love her character because she has been raised to be a boy her entire life. So she has a lot of mannerisms that a boy would, at least a boy in their society would. But she also really wants to be a woman. Like, she's never been allowed to be a woman. So it's very interesting, that dynamic in her trying to figure out her femininity. I really loved that struggle with her. It's definitely a really interesting coming of age story that I enjoyed, and I really liked her relationship with some of the other characters. Like I said, there is a romantic relationship in here. It is not the romantic relationship I was expecting going into it. I wasn't on board with it for like the first half of the book. The second half of the book, I kind of resigned myself to it, and then I found myself like actually rooting for the couple. So like that aspect of it, which was surprising because I didn't expect to like that aspect of it. I generally don't like that aspect of it, but like I feel like it worked in this one just because the complications that they have are irreconcilable. I feel like a lot of times with romances in YA novels, the complications are just because, oh, they don't talk to each other or something like that. That wasn't the issues here. They actually had complications and conflicts that they couldn't get past because there wasn't a way to get past them, and they just had to deal with those emotions, and I liked that aspect of it. I don't want to go too far into all of the other characters. I did love pretty much all of them because some of the characters, they seem like good characters, but then like they have a darker side, or they seem like bad characters and they have a good side, and I really like that. I love when you're not sure whether you should like a character or not. I think that's just like the best way to put it, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. So I'm gonna move on to plot. So the plot really took me by surprise because I didn't expect to like the plot as much as I ended up liking it. It's very political, which I love political plots. Really, really love political plots, but at the same time, there is a huge romantic aspect to it, and there is a pretty big survival aspect to it also because our main character goes into a lot of dangerous situations. I liked that she was good at what she did, but no one was fooled by her, if that makes sense. I really enjoyed just like her blundering and not realizing she was blundering and things like that. Just like the twists and turns that it took you on. I do think that this book didn't feel like a whole first novel. It felt like the first half of the first novel of a new series. The ending didn't give me any closure. So for that, I will have to say the plot didn't quite live up to my expectations just because I didn't find any closure towards the end at all. Like, Like, that being said, I do really want to read the second book in the series now. Unfortunately, this is a new release. It literally just came out, so it's gonna be a while, but I'm definitely really excited for it. The next thing I want to talk about is world building, and I think world building is probably one of the weaker points for this book. It is interesting. I do think the world building was overly simplified in some ways, and then there were other aspects of the world building that I was just kind of like, well, that doesn't really make sense. Like, for example, at some point they say that the army of the kingdom has 1,000 soldiers, which might sound like a big number, but when it comes to armies, generally they're much larger than that, especially for an entire kingdom with multiple dukes. I was about to say duchies. They don't call it duchies, they call it counties, which is just weird also. There's many different dukes in this kingdom, so it doesn't really make sense that the king's army would only be 1,000 men when, like, the dukes could easily overpower him. Like, very easy. Like, 2 dukes come together and they can overpower the king. So, like, that didn't really make sense to me, but, like, I mean, it's a YA novel, so, like, I didn't expect them to have the best military strategy. So, yeah. I did enjoy the world, even though, like, it was, like I said, it was a guilty pleasure read for me, so I wasn't too critical of the world in general. And lastly, we have to talk about writing style. And I think the writing style really is what helped me really enjoy this book, because I really loved the voice of this book. It was just so fast-paced and easy to read, and it took you on this ride that was just so quick to get through, and I absolutely loved it. So I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I don't necessarily think, like, if I was rating this book objectively, it's objectively not a 4.5 star book, but it made me so happy and was done so well in a way that I enjoyed so much that I can't give it anything less than 4.5 stars. So I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. If you've read this book, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to discuss it with you guys. I post videos frequently in this channel, so consider subscribing. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.